eBay sellers, you have landed on episode number 216 of eBay the Right Way. Today's date is May 7th, 2025, and my guest is Dana in Texas. No announcements today, so we will get started.
Hello, listeners. I have Dana with us today. And tell us where you're located.
Dallas.
Okay, Dallas, Texas.
No,
That
just
is
east.
a thrifting mecca, I hear.
Yes.
Well, we can talk about that more a little bit later. And we usually start off with what got you involved in eBay and when that was.
Well, it's actually a really funny story and kind of a great story to tell. I had never really bought or sold anything on eBay. I hadn't even ever been on the website at all. But I had been speaking to just a small group of people, of therapists and moms. I have a son with special needs, and the one of the therapists who hosts these meetings had asked me to come and speak and just tell a little bit about my story, about my son's story. And part of that story is how we had paid for his therapies and his tuition to his school he goes to just out of pocket. And I had just kind of done everything I could do. I had sold essential oils, not really as a business, but I would start making bath salts before Christmas to pay, like, to have people get Christmas gifts for their teachers. And then the next year I did sugar scrub. And then, one day I thought, I could have a garage sale. And that was just to me a like new idea because I really didn't love garage sales, going to them or having them. So I thought I have some things around here I could just throw out on my lawn. And my friend said, "Hey, if you're having a garage sale, I was about to take some things to donation. Why don't I just bring them to you and you can add them to your sale?" And another friend was with us and she said, "Hey, me too. I have some stuff. I need to go through some closets." And so that was my first garage sale. And I made, a couple $100 and called it a day. And so that was a part of my story, how I've just been selling different things. Those garage sales had kind of grown I kind of became the neighborhood family and friend thrift store. They would just drop stuff up on my front porch and I would end up having a garage sale. So about two times a year. And so this lady approached me after the meeting that I was speaking at and said, Dana, my husband is love clothes like a lot. And he had surgery recently and his physiology kind of changed and he went from a large to a medium and he has all of the clothes that don't fit him, but he's kind of attached to them and he won't let them go. But I think if he knew the story of your son, I think he would maybe give them to you to sell. Do people buy used clothes?
Oh, yeah.
That's what she said. And I, never having sold on eBay, said, I think people buy used clothes on eBay. And she said, "Well, hey, let me talk to him and I'll get back to you." And so I gave her my number and he called me a week later and introduced himself and said, "Hey, I have some clothes. If you're interested in them, you can come get them." Well, I had no idea what I was doing. Like, I went to his home and his garage was full of like those uh, portable type container store closets,
Uh-huh.
like, and when it was all said and done, it was like over 500 button front men's shirts from the cleaners, Peter Millar, Ike Behar, Robert Talbot. I mean, just some really nice labels. There's 400 pair of wool pants, like Zanella. There were 100 Brooks Brothers
Wait,
belts.
400 pairs of pants?
Yes, 400 pair of pants.
God, you could wear one every day for over a year and never wear the same one twice.
I know, and I guess, he was just a clothes horse. I don't know. He just really loved his clothes, and there were 100 belts, all Brooks Brothers. 50 of them still had the tags on them, like $100 price tags. And 50 of them that he had worn a few times, I guess, each. And then a few pair of shoes, like it's still in the box, Cole Haan, Allen Edmond, 200 cashmere sweaters,
200?
200
Oh
cashmere
my
sweaters.
gosh, I would have been going out of my mind to get my
I
hands
was
on that stuff.
I didn't even know because I hadn't even been in that game. I hadn't even entered the game yet. So I didn't even really know. I was just so overwhelmed. But I thought, well, okay, just jump right in. And so I also there was like 41 pair of Under Armour sweatpants, like that looked brand. They had all been taken to the laundry, like professionally laundered.
Right.
Yeah, he didn't do any of his own laundry. So I on the way home, my car wouldn't hold half of it. And so I had a little Mazda 5 and I had loaded it up and I on my way home, he lived about 20 minutes from me. And so I just called my friend who lives in a neighboring town, kind of a big home. She was like a 16,000 square foot home and four of her kids had moved out. And so I knew she had some extra closets. And I just called her and said, hey, I have a strange request. Can I please borrow a couple of your closets for a while? And she said, "Of course, they're empty." And so I just drove straight to her house, unloaded that load, went straight back to his house, loaded up again. It took me 3 or 4 loads to get all of it over there, set up in her house. I cleaned out one of my closets, a very small closet that I could afford to lose because I live in a pretty small home. And just would restock that one closet and list that and then go over to my friend's house and reload. And so I just kind of jumped in with a lot of good, really free inventory with a lot of room to make mistakes because I, I didn't have any overhead. I didn't have anything really invested in it other than my time. So that's kind of how I got started. And that was in 2013.
Okay, so you've been going over a decade.
Yeah, that makes
Good
me
for
sound
you.
old.
Okay, so are you still in the clothing business?
I do now a little bit of everything that I want to do. There are some things that people, oh, so my whole, that really set up also just the way my business, or I don't even almost call it a business. It's just this weird thing of people just give me things they don't want and I sell them. So I heart you when you said Dallas is a great thrifting mecca. I don't really thrift much. I kind
Okay.
of cut out the middleman. I just have friends and family and they will call me and say, "Hey, I have stuff I want to get rid of," and I'll typically even come pick it up from them, or they'll drop it off, or it's just this, and then people who need things, if they need them, they'll come get them from me and I'll just give them to them. Like it's been given to me, I can give it to them. And, I just kind of have an open hands approach to it mostly. So there's things that I don't want to sell. And I feel like this week, someone said, "Hey, I have my mom's china, from 1976 or something." And I'm like, I know there are people who do that, but I'm not one of them. So thanks, but just probably donate it or any electronics. I'm like, no thanks. If I have to test an electronic device before I sell it, I'm out. I don't really like to do that.
Um, so are you doing a consignment split or are these items just given to you outright for free?
The great majority of them are just given to me. I do some consignment. I have one friend. She's a friend, and she has some really nice clothes. She, has a personal shopper that shops for her, and,
Oh,
so
wow.
she does a lot of her stuff with the Real, or but if sometimes she doesn't want to do the Real, or sometimes she just has things that the Real won't take, she'll call me and sometimes I'll split some things with her. She recently moved and I got a whole lot of Mackenzie Child stuff, which I had not known. I mean, I'd kind of heard Mackenzie Child. I knew how to spot the check, I knew how to spot the courtly check patterns, but I'm not out thrifting for them. So I just someone had them. I knew what they were, but I had no idea the demand for that little niche market. I mean, I've sold stuff on the BST Facebook groups or on
Mhm.
eBay as well. The other day I put some silk napkins, Mackenzie Child silk napkins with the little tassels, and I they wouldn't sell on the BST, so I was like, I'll just throw them on eBay, and I sold them like in 24 hours for $50 or $60, and
Nice.
So I just those Mackenzie Childs people, that's something to look for sure. If you it's a BOLO
Yeah,
for sure.
definitely. And for the listeners, a BST is a buy, sell, trade Facebook group.
Yeah.
That's just an acronym.
Yeah. So
I didn't know what it was at first either.
oh
I'm like,
you did.
BST. Oh, buy, sell, trade. Okay, that
Actual
makes
trade.
sense.
That's like sometimes, when people give things to me, I kind of just go through them and go, I think this would be best for eBay. This would be best for Marketplace. This would be best for a BST group on Facebook. Or, I mean, I've been through so many iterations of selling, like from offer up to, 5 Mile to just those, of course, do anymore. I've tried Poshmark. I've tried Mercari. I've tried those other groups. I don't really love them. I feel like eBay's been my mainstay. It's what I started with, and when people say, eBay's days are over, I'm like, well, I don't feel that way. I do
Is
pretty
OfferUp
okay.
still going?
I don't think so. I just was like thinking about all the things I've sold in all the different places, and it's like, oh wow, that's funny that all those things have kind of come and gone, but eBay has remained.
Yeah, that's my feeling too. I've tried different things, not as many as you, but I did do Amazon, I did Etsy.
Mhm.
I did not even try Mercari. My daughter did Poshmark, and she was like, "Yeah, that's not going to be for you because it's all the sharing and liking and all that stuff. You have to be on it a lot."
Well, you have
Um,
to like wrap things in a bow, and they want
yeah,
things delivered to them as a gift. It seems I'm not really. That's not really my. I want things to be secure and all in one piece when they get
and
there.
it's
But
funny to see how these different sites affect eBay because when Poshmark started and Instagram, there's all those lifestyle photos, like
mhm.
the fuzzy rug with the pretty gold shiny bowl and the plant in the background, and it's like a sweater laid out on this fuzzy rug. And that's just the way, that's called a lifestyle photo, and that's just the way they do it. But eBay does not like that.
Yeah.
They only want the item for sale in the photo because buyers could come back and say, well, I didn't get the rug or the bowl or the plant, and
Yes.
and open an item not as described, and like all that happened. I get it why people are doing it. They're trying to make their photography uniform for all the sites. Like, I'm just going to take one picture and put it everywhere. But yeah, it's funny how all that stuff changes what people do on eBay because they're trying to make their process more streamlined. And then all the background removal stuff happened. I don't even know what year that was, maybe mid teens or something. Um,
Yes.
but it's amazing how easy that is now. I mean, it was an ordeal. Like, you had to go get some kind of photo editing software and do all of that. And even now the eBay background removal tool isn't perfect. Like, it takes out too much and there's no way to put it back. It doesn't have a put back tool, or it doesn't take out enough and there's no way to erase it. So if you're really into that, like, you still kind of have to have a backup plan for background removal because it's not perfect yet.
Yeah. And I'm just not that um professional, honestly. Like I have like white backgrounds. Sometimes I use black backgrounds, even though
Right.
I've heard they don't like that. Some things I feel like just pop a little better on black. But I'm basic, and I've actually had people give me feedback, say like how they appreciate that what they saw was the thing that they bought, and it was, like just a photo. It wasn't enhanced in any way. It's not even.
Right.
Like,
Right.
I sometimes hesitate when I have a piece of, like, I just recently sold some Ars Prussia china, some antique china pieces, and like plates, cake plates and stuff. And I have a little stand, a little plate stand. I'm so careful to put in my description, no, it does not include stand. Because
Right.
eBay is
Exactly.
like they want, what's in the picture.
Or yeah, or
I
you
don't
put a
want
quarter next to it to show the size of something, and it's like coin not included.
or Coke can. Yeah, Coke
Right,
can not
yeah,
included.
something to show, a standard size of something to show that.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't do the background removal. That's fine. I wasn't judging anybody on that. I was just
No,
talking about the evolution of it, because when
right.
that first started, it was all about getting your item to show up in Google Images. And the theory
Mhm.
was it has to have a white background. And
Mhm.
that's so not true,
Right.
because even then you would see, well, before Google Lens or Google Images was invented, go on Google and you'd see all kinds of backgrounds. And there, that was the objective, was to get your item higher in search. So everybody
Mhm.
believed that, oh, I got to have a white background. So either they have that white background when they're taking the photo, or use an editing tool to remove the background and make it white. So that's where
Yeah.
all that came from. But
Mhm.
it's crazy. You'll look at completed sold listings and it's just something thrown on somebody's bed, or, on their kitchen counter, and all this stuff is in the background, and
They're the worst on
and
their
they
floor
sell
of their
things like that,
bathroom.
sell.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the floor, their tiled floor of their bathroom next to their toilet, and I'm like, "Really?"
Or the
I've
dog
seen it.
bowl. Yeah.
Yeah, I've
Dogs
seen
in a food bowl. It's like, ooh, that item was next to where the dog is eating.
it. Yeah,
It's just, I don't know. That would be a turn off as a buyer. I wouldn't like that. But some people don't care. It depends on what the item is, I guess.
yeah, what the price is too, I guess. Good deal.
Right. Yeah.
Whatsoever included.
Yeah. Or people will, like if they're out thrifting or estate sailing or whatever, and they find a great item, they'll just stick it on the front seat of their car and take a picture of it
Yeah,
right
they're
then.
so excited. They
Like, I
can't
gotta get
wait
this
to get
listing.
it on.
Somebody could buy it in 1 minute. And it's like in their car, and you see like the Wendy's bag and the French fries, and it's like, uh, I don't know.
Just slow down a little bit and take a
Right,
few
right.
breaths. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about some things you've sold, because you pop up on the sales threads in the Facebook group. And so that's why I'm picking on you to talk about some of these things.
Yeah, well, it's just I sell a little bit, like I said, of everything. Things that and you asked earlier about commission. So, most of my stuff isn't, but sometimes I do. Some things I do commission on. Some things I try not to do it if it's under $50. It just doesn't seem to be worth it after eBay fees and the hassle. But sometimes if there are nicer items, I'm willing to be fair with people. And honestly, the way the relationship I have with people, it's they know they're doing it also to support my son and his school and therapies and just our life, that I can't really have a typical job. I can't really work a 9 to 5 job because I'm a caregiver first. And he's in school now, and that's great. But when that school isn't in session, I'm 100% on. He's full
Right.
time, so they know that. And it's just a way that they, I think, help support me. But then I also or support him too, but my family. We I think some of the things I've sold that are, I think, memorable, I guess. One one time, this guy, my husband's coworker, he had a Michael Jordan rookie card, and it
Oh.
was graded. And I know nothing about cards other than most people say they're not worth it, right? Like, but this one was, I knew,
Yeah,
worth
it's
something.
very specialized. And yeah, you hear the stories of like that one card sold for $5,000, but that's rare. It's like coins and
Yeah,
those very specialized items that, there may be one coin with a misprint and it's worth a lot of money. And it's a lot of time evaluating and people who have cards like that, sports cards, they have a lot of them.
yeah. Or they
Thou-
just, and they know it, or coins, all those little niche things that I just am like, let someone else make that money.
Right, right.
Someone else
That's
who
not
has that
interesting.
knowledge, great. But he wanted to sell this, and I knew it was worth something. And he wanted actually to give the money to the local food bank. But he said, what I would like to do is, if you're willing to sell it on your platform, I'll give you a percentage of it. And I thought, you know what, this could be fun. This could be a fun little thing. So I did sell it. I think it sold for like $2,600.
Really?
Yeah, and he gave me 4 or 500 for it. This has been several years ago, and he gave the rest to the food bank. And like, that's great. It was a fun. Sometimes I like to sell things just because they're kind of fun. Like, can I sell it? Like empty shoe boxes. That friend I was telling you about. She has Christian Louboutin shoes, if I'm even saying that right, or Gucci boxes. And people buy those empty boxes, and I I'm sure they might use them for their own nefarious reasons. They might be selling, and not legit stuff or whatever. I don't really care what people do with the stuff I sell as long as I'm legit on the front end. I'm like,
Yeah,
do
you can't control that anyway, so
yeah, like, so but also I think, like, some of those Gucci boxes people use for little gift boxes, or they're really nice, and, Louis Vuitton boxes, so I sell empty boxes, so don't ever, like, overlook those things.
oh yeah, I just sold some last month. They were vintage hosiery boxes.
Oh, really?
They had, the vintage chunky 60s art on the front,
Yeah.
um, but also back to the shoe boxes and the like handbag, dust bags and things.
Oh, uh-huh.
They may have that exact item. They just want to put it in the box in their closet and have it all be nice and neat, like Oprah's closet where everything is perfect.
Right.
Um, and just maybe they just want the box. Or I've heard people that have either consignment stores or little boutiques selling, used clothing and shoes that they want a box to go with a product they're selling in their store that is vintage or used.
Yeah, I think it
That's
increases
legit
the
reason.
value on depending on their platform, it could increase the value for
Right,
them
right.
too.
So there's
Yeah.
there's legit reasons. I
Oh,
mean,
for
yeah,
sure.
you can't do anything about the Nike boxes where people are selling fake Nikes and
No,
counterfeit, all of that. You can't do anything about it.
no. It's not I don't have to answer for that one, so,
Right, right.
um so, a couple of other things I think this surprised me. One time I sold I someone gave me some Cabbage Patch, dolls and clothes, and I knew people I don't know, I just didn't have a whole lot of knowledge, so I thought, "I'm just gonna lot these clothes up and try to sell them." And I actually started on Marketplace first, and someone immediately circled one of the one of the little outfits and said, "How much for this one? How much would you sell this one for?" And so that made me go, "Hmm," if she would have just, like, bought it for however much I
Right.
had
That
to put
tipped
her,
you
I would have
off.
just
Hold on.
yeah,
Yeah.
I would have just said, "Hey, you know what? Fair. I listed it for this, you're paying me this." But because she didn't say, "I want it," I was like, "Oh, let me see." And so I did some research, and I'm like, "Oh, I think this one thing is worth quite a bit of money." It's some, like, primary color little cat pattern Cabbage Patch Kid outfit. And so, I just told her, "Sorry, it's no longer available for sale."
Yeah. That's
If she would
exactly
have said if she would have said she wanted it, I would have been upstanding and said, "You know what? Here you go." But she didn't. So, I just took it down and sold that little Cabbage Patch outfit for I undersold it too. I think I sold it for $40. I left some money on the table, I think, because I couldn't really find what it was. I should have auctioned it, but I didn't. And I'm like, okay, let someone else have a good buy. That's fine. Let them tell their
yeah.
story.
I love it
So
when buyers tip you off like that. And
yeah.
there's like the helpful buyers that, hey, did you know that this is worth whatever? You should research this more. Or
Yes.
the ones that, I only want that one. Only want that part of it. And then, they've tipped you off to dig a little deeper. When you're right, they should have just bought whatever the lot was
Yep.
and kept their mouth shut. The
Yeah.
more I do this business, the more I learn. There's
Yeah.
just things that you shouldn't share.
Yeah. Right. And in that case, I mean, fine. I've undersold things, but I'm kind of like not gonna stress about it. Like I sold a blanket once. I don't even remember the details of it, but I know I sold it for $50 and it sold pretty quickly. And then I went back and looked and I'm like, oh, I think I could have gotten probably three or $350 for this. But
Really?
so I was a little disappointed, but I'm not one of those people, you see I think in your group and and I'm in another group on Facebook too, you see people go, "Oh, I undersold this. Should I cancel it?" And I'm just
No.
always like, "No, I just say let them have their good day." They got a good deal. I learned something. If I ever come across it again, I'll know better, but I'm not going to I'm not going to do that. Just let them have
Yeah.
their
And
story.
while you're not out there buying for resale as much as others might be, we'll find things for $1 that we sell for 100 or more. And so, we have our good days. And
Yeah,
um, I had to learn not to beat myself up about that
me too.
because, I made my money,
Yeah,
and really, how much of this stuff is just circulating? You know,
yeah.
somebody buys it and then they have it in their eBay store and maybe it doesn't sell. And then maybe they decide not to do eBay anymore and it gets redonated and it just, then somebody else comes along and buys it. And it's just this whole cycle of things
Mhm,
circulating between people. And, I've become more of a uh, fast flipper than
mhm.
than the long tail seller. I did that for years, and it's just, I just like to keep things moving.
Yes.
I'm going to make good decisions. Some things you will wait for, but you're turning that item over, that inventory, and putting that money back into more inventory. So you're doing that more times a year than you would with a long tail item. I sold something yesterday I've had since December of 22. I remember the day I bought it. I took a
Yeah.
trip up to Charlotte and hit some thrift stores, and I remember buying this item. It was a tie. I paid $2 for it. It finally sold for 30, but I was like, yeah, it seems like I've had this forever.
You kinda have, but then also it doesn't take up much space. It's kind of there's also that kinda list it and forget about it kinda mentality. I have some
Yes.
of that for things like I list it, I inventory it. I have just really 2 closets here in my home of inventory, so I keep things kinda small because I just don't have a lot of space, and I I don't it doesn't, list it and forget about it. If it's a tie, that's, minimal space. Let it.
Yeah, that's not a big deal. I'm just, as my business evolves and I get
Mhm.
older, I just
Yeah.
I'd rather see the faster profit and turn it over. I take lower offers than I would, 2 years ago. Just
Yes.
eBay is different. It keeps changing.
Mhm.
There's more and more sellers and more competition. And you've got to find the items that don't have a lot of competition. I don't want to sell something if there's already 5,000 of it listed.
Yes,
That's
for
going to take a
sure,
long time.
for
So,
sure.
okay. So you talk about those, you said dishes, some Russian dishes.
Oh, RS Prussia, it's just, there's some just I don't even know, I can't even describe. They're just the one you would probably recognize them maybe. They're like a lot of floral patterns, and there's the ones that are kind of worth something or the ones with swans on them. I actually just sold the bowl yesterday. I had a plate I sold about 4 or 5 months ago, and I just put the bowl in the mail this morning. So it's not my style at all, but they came across my path and I sold. And then I also sell things like I do estate sales too, actually, but on a small scale, like people who are moving or downsizing or changing. I've done 3 or 4 for people, friends that are kind of changing from like a more traditional style to a more modern whatever or farmhouse or whatever, and so they're selling a lot of their furniture. So estate sale companies might not really want to come in and do it, but I'll do it. And then they normally they're friends. I bring my own stuff over. I get 100% of the stuff I bring from my inventory, and so that's also been a little way. So eBay's not my main thing, but it's been my constant thing.
Mhm.
I kind of hustle and do some other little things, and I'm a caregiver for a friend's mom 1 or 2 days a week, so I do that. But eBay has kind of been the mainstay for me, I think, over the years.
How many items do you have in your inventory?
I think right now I think I have only 280, which isn't many. I just did an estate sale 3 or 4 weeks ago, mid March. Um, and I took the opportunity to go through my entire inventory, which I recommend. I'm not very good at it, but especially if you have so many items, it's so hard. But things get dropped. eBay drops things. Like I think when I had about 375 when I started doing this. I did it about 6 weeks ago, and when I got through, I touched every item. I cross-checked it with like cross-referenced with things I had in inventory versus the things I had listed, and it took a little while. When I was done, I had like 8 things that were in my inventory that were no longer listed. I had 3 things that were listed and know I have sold. And I know eBay says they don't do that, but I always say you should check because I know
Mhm.
I sold it. I have a record that I sold it, shipped it. It was listed. I don't relist things from my unsold. Anyway, it was
Well,
weird.
it could have been one of those duplicate listings and it was there twice and you didn't know, and then one sold and then
Yeah. That little
one up.
duplicate lister tool is also good. I know.
Yeah, and I checked that a couple weeks ago and it wasn't working. So I don't know if
Good.
that is going away or if it was just down for maintenance or whatever, but there
Mhm.
is, if you Google eBay duplicate listing checker
Yes.
or tool, the page comes up, but I put in my information and it just um, said cannot process your request or something like that.
Huh.
So I hope it's still working because I do check that like once a month, um,
Yeah.
because yeah, eBay does some wonky stuff and listings evaporate, and it's like I don't mind going through my inventory a couple times a year because then you have all this stuff that's not listed and you can, it's like Christmas. Oh, I need
Yeah.
to get that back. No wonder this didn't sell. It's not
Yeah.
even listed. Yeah.
Right.
Or it
So
shows up in your best offer workflow and then it just stops showing up and it's because it's dropped off.
yes. So I went through my inventory and culled a lot of things that had been listed for a while that hadn't sold, and I took them over to that estate sale to sell them. So just to kind of clear out my inventory. So I don't keep it to my numbers too high because it's not my only source of income. It and I don't have a lot of space, and I'm not really interested in trying to find more space. I'm kind of keeping it at this level. I kind of like what I have going, and I like that I'm not depending on eBay 100%. I like the income. It's nice income. Some months I need it more than other months, but I'm not always like I'm not trying to grow a big business or, I'm not that's not really how I use eBay. That's why I'm just not super business minded. Honestly, I'm mostly this is true. I don't like things to go to the dump. I have a real like I I don't like it when things that can be useful to someone go in the trash. It really bothers me. So I would rather be able to just get it in someone's hands that needs it, even if I give it to them. Like just more than if it goes in the trash. I really have a problem with people who are just like,
I'm the same
I just
way.
throw it away.
I hate waste.
I do too.
um, Whether it's food or money or, whatever, time, that's a big one.
Mhm.
Um, and
Guilty.
I don't like to see things wasted. Now, um, I've seen pack rats that like save every piece of board they've ever sawed in half,
Mhm.
or like, they save all these things like, well, I might need that for a project later. Um, and their shop is completely full of all this stuff. Or there you have to find the balance for you of, okay, yeah, I can get rid of that. But I'm the same way. It's mind-boggling how much stuff is probably in the landfill,
Mhm.
dump, or burn trash that could have sold,
Yeah.
or that more importantly somebody would have wanted.
Yeah, that's
So,
it too.
and that's I sold some perfume this week and the lady was like, "Oh, thank you so much for accepting my offer. This is for my 92-year-old mom.
Oh,
She
I
loves
love
this.
this.
They don't make it anymore. I'm going to give it to her for Mother's Day. She'll be so happy." And, it cost me 15 and I sold it for around 50. So I made some money on it, but it was more fulfilling to get her message and know
Yeah,
that
for sure.
I found that in an estate sale. It was full. Nobody.
That's what I was about to ask. I can't sell perfume on I have actually a special place I keep people that give me perfume because I don't even try anymore on eBay. Like, and I know you can sell it like what as collector bottle.
Well, you can't, it has to be either full or empty
Okay.
because of the FDA. rules for cosmetics, and that's what it
Uh-huh.
falls under, even though it's a spray and there's no way it could be contaminated. Um, so what you could do is, if it's a fun bottle, you can empty it out and then sell it empty, which is wasteful, or just use it yourself. And then when
Yeah.
it's empty, you can, because I've sold Chanel and Gucci fragrance bottles empty,
I just sold a Chanel full bottle in the box like 3 weeks ago for
Uh-huh.
so I just sold that. A friend gave it to me. She said, "My husband gave this to me so many years ago. It was still in the wrap." She's like,
Yep.
This is not my scent." So she just gave it to me. She's like, "I might as well go to someone else." So that's also, I'm not a perfume wearer, but I know that there are definitely people out there that are looking for that
Okay.
one brand or whatever.
So
So
technically the rule is fragrances have to be completely full, brand new, or empty bottle. Yes, there are probably thousands of listings on eBay for, you can look it up. I see it all the
uh-huh,
time. I'm doing my research, like 80% full,
uh-huh.
70% full. And, just if you want to try to sneak it in, that's on you. But is it worth risking your
Not
account
worth it.
having the item pulled and possibly your account suspended for temporarily or forever? So
Right.
I'm not a risk taker like that.
I'm not either.
I do have a Chanel number 5 that came in a lot of perfume that I bought, and the the squirter sprayer on top came off, and I'm like, I can't. It's useless. I cannot get the other piece off around the neck of the bottle.
Oh, no.
Like there's no way for it to come out. It's half full. I'm like, well, I could empty it and sell the bottle, but then no, it was just like, this is gonna be a loss. Oh well, things happen.
The time invested's not worth it
Yeah,
sometimes.
because in the picture on the online auction, it had the outer cap on top, so there was no way to know that the sprayer was broken.
Mhm.
So sometimes you win. And then the other day, I bought a lot of needlework stuff, and most of it's completed. And in that lot was the God Bless Our Home 70s groovy
Mhm.
piece that I've got it up for $300. So I didn't even know it was in there. That was my surprise. So
That's a nice surprise.
it was just like a basket of needlework stuff. I could kind of see what was in there, and I won the whole lot for like $10. So
Yeah, that's a nice one. Yeah,
yeah.
I love to sell completed needlepoint. I've done several of those too. People just sell them for cheap or give them away or whatever. I will say that probably 5 or 10% of what I do is not thrifted. I don't really go to thrift stores, but I will go to estate sales. And I remember my first estate sale. It was probably 7 years ago. Because I had started reading your Facebook group and started kind of
Uh-huh.
learning about different things. Like I saw this estate sale sign. I kind of wheeled in and I saw these 3 Winnie the Pooh books. They were the 1961 or something, first edition Winnie the Pooh books. And I thought, and books are normally like I have a degree in English literature. I taught gifted humanities. I love to read. I'm a book lover, but I'm not a bookseller. I leave that. I know there's some money to be made, but like I said, it's not my thing. But I've sold first editions of some things. But I saw those Winnie the Pooh books. I kind of looked them up while I was standing there. I bought them for $9, all 3 of them for $9, and sold them for 61. And that was the first time I had ever bought something to actually resell about 7 years ago. And so I was like, oh, I see how come this could be fun too. I just kind of what people give me. I just see if there's value in it and sell it if I can and give it away if I can and donate it if I can't do either of those 2 things. So I do sometimes now go into an estate sale and kind of look for some kind of little deal. I'll tell you the thing I go to first is coffee mugs. For some reason, because they're always like 50 cents are a dollar. Coffee mugs at estate sales are so inexpensive. But I flipped several coffee mugs for, I bought them for 50 cents and I sold them for 25 or 30. Like there's certain um like brands or all hand thrown pottery, which is something I have trouble selling because that's the thing. I don't like a lot of things. I'm not a collector of too much, but I do love hand thrown pottery. So I do have a little bit of trouble selling those if I come across them. But that's just the little things you go to, right?
For me, coffee mugs take a long time to sell. Do you see that when you're selling them?
It's a hit or miss, and then I don't care because I only bought it for 50 cents. So if I end up giving it away or selling it and or whatever, just clearing out my inventory, I'm like, well, that's a 50-cent
Right.
loss. Or they don't take up a lot of space. I have a little shelf. I probably only have four or five of listed. I
Mhm.
don't have a whole, it's not like a whole thing I do. Just I always look for them.
Right.
There's just a few that I look for. Fire
Okay.
King, those old Fire King,
Oh, yeah.
those, like, people don't know sometimes that are selling them. They don't know, "Oh, these are actually worth some money."
Right. Like the character ones or the ones that restaurants gave away, like the
Mhm.
Dunkin' Donuts and the Snoopy Red Baron and some of the more rare patterns. Yeah,
I
those are
just
fun.
sold some little Morton Salt ones, the little coffee mugs with the little girl with the umbrella.
Uh-huh.
I just sold a pair of those recently. I bought them for 50 cents each. I'm sold them for, I don't remember the number, but uh, it was more than a dollar. I
Yeah.
don't So,
Yeah, and I think those are just fun to find because
yeah,
you know that buyers purchase things for nostalgia. And I
yeah.
think sellers enjoy selling things for nostalgia, like, oh, I had this doll, or, I had this exact Barbie outfit, or, we had this in our kitchen, the funky like atomic starburst clocks and stuff,
Oh, yes.
or dishes. Like we go back to, yeah, that was in our kitchen. Everybody had that wooden spice rack, and then
Right.
you buy it and put it up for sale and you kind of enjoy it for a little while and then you let it go to somebody else.
Yeah,
I know I'm like that.
me too.
And sometimes the things I have nostalgia for, they don't turn out too well, but I enjoy doing it. Yeah,
Right. That's worth something too.
I mean, you have to enjoy it. If you're just doing this just for the money, you're not going to do it very long.
No.
Have to love what you're doing.
Yeah. I see it as just a sweet way that to help my son, to help for his therapies in school. And
Right.
actually I do a thing, this might sound a little cheesy, but I keep a my husband named it, which we're just a little word nerdy a little bit, but we call it my gratitude grid. And I started it probably not when I first in 2013, but a couple of years late. So I started a spreadsheet where, like, I started with that man who gave me all those clothes. He's number one. And at the end of every month, I go through and I do a little inventory on Marketplace and eBay because those are really the only two platforms I'm selling on now. And I just kind of keep add up all the things, how much money that I sold of their things, and it's just a little way for me to be grateful and just just say a little prayer, asking God to bless them for whatever in return for what they blessed me with. And it has over 100, I think it has 109 or 110 names on it now. So,
Really?
yeah, so over the last 10 years, since I started keeping that, or really 11 or 12 now, there's been over 100 people who have donated to this cause, to my son's cause, and it's just a way that just am able to stay grateful. And that's why I'm not really in it like how much money can I make? It's like how much how much am I willing to open my heart and hands to receive, and how much am I willing to keep my heart and hands open to give? Like it's more of that than it is a business mentality. I would fail miserably if I was having to like ROIs and all those business terms that I'm just not very business minded. So if I was in it for that, I would have like jumped ship
And that's
before I
okay. You
started.
don't have to be. I think the word on the street through social media and stuff is if you do eBay, you have to have this giant business, and
Mhm.
you have to want to grow it to where you have employees and storage unit and all this stuff. And no,
No.
see, I started in 2003, so um, I've never wanted it to be that, and it kind of irritates me. That's why I do these podcasts and videos on YouTube is to tell people it's okay to have it whatever size you want, whatever
Yeah,
works for your life. Because I tried to grow it really huge, and I ended up managing people. I didn't even get to do the fun stuff anymore. So
yeah,
I'd rather just have a business that I can manage. I can do more. I can pull back and do less when I need to. And I'm not a good manager. I don't want to,
and
I
people,
don't
yeah,
want to manage people and hire them and have to correct
no,
them when they do things wrong. And I got enough of that when I was a mom, with
yeah,
my little kids. So, um,
yeah,
I
I'm not at
doing
and
it
I'm
my
also,
way,
yeah,
and not having to explain anything to anybody about why I'm doing it this way. I just do it. If I succeed, I succeed. If I fail, I just don't do that anymore. Move on to something
right.
else.
And I'm a little bit too much of a control freak, like to let go of that. Like I don't want anyone else's um, work to influence my platform. I think I'm a little too much of a control freak for that too, which is, I don't know if that's
Well, it's your business.
yeah,
And what I learned was these other people, they don't have any skin in the game.
yeah.
They don't care if the pictures are crappy. Uh, I have very high standards. And even my daughter's like, no, I'm not taking pictures for you. I was like, I could sell more stuff if I could get your help. And this was way back when she first started helping me, and she did it for one day, and I was just too picky. And
Well, she made it a whole day.
yeah, exactly right. I know, because I don't want to say OCD, but I got a lot of people looking at my store and my videos, and I'm just I'm about high quality standards. And even these podcasts, I edit them so they sound wonderful. And um so that's just what I learned about myself is it's better for me to do it and not do as much, but do it
Mhm.
at the quality level that I am proud of and want to put out there. So, you don't have to have a big business. And a lot of sellers, retired, semi-retired caregivers, in that generation, just, they do it for fun to break up the monotony of all the seriousness of life. And it is fun when you get the sale or you find a great thing to sell. um it brings joy to your life. And so for the listeners, like, you don't have to grow your business any further than what you're happy with. You don't need
Right,
employees, you don't need to have 10,000 items. um just do it what makes you happy, and be consistent and keep going.
right. That's how I view it for sure. It's not anything I'm in it to make, fund some kind of retirement account. It's a fun business. It's a fun little side gig to do when I have time. And like the past 8 or 9 days have been pretty difficult with my son. Like, and he had 4 days off for Easter. So when he's home, he's 100% eyes on him. He's 17, developmentally about 15 months old. So it's like having a full grown man with the capacity of a toddler, and so he is full on 100% eyes on him. I can't really do a lot of work whenever I'm in, like when he's in my care. So those 4 days, I can't press through and just like, well, I'm going to list anyway, or I'm going to, I have to just give myself a little bit of grace and be like, no, this is my first job. My first job is to care and love on him, and make sure he's safe and cared for. We went on a lot of walks, and so there's just I can't function and think of eBay as a business. Like,
Right,
you know,
right.
I
And
can't
you don't need to. And you are a special person called to do a special job with your son. So
it's first for sure. It's
it's
first.
well, but I think you're managing it very well, and working things in for yourself as you can. That's important, self-care.
Yeah, I try to go on one solo trip a year. I started that. Well, I hadn't been anywhere in 10 years. Whenever I had him, I didn't spend one night away from him for 10 years.
Oh, wow.
And you just really, you can, obviously, burnout is a real thing when you're a caregiver. But I went on a 10-day silent retreat with some monks up in New York. That was the first
Oh,
time I'd went away just to be quiet for 10 whole days.
I love that.
And I just did love it too. And so I've been to a couple of places. I try every year to get away for just 3, 4, or 5 days. Sedona one year. I just got back from Arches National Park. I went on a
I
little.
saw your pictures on Facebook. That looked like an amazing trip.
It was really great.
And
Just
Sedona is so
for a little bit.
magical with the vibrations and the vibe of it.
Yeah,
It really kind of grounds you, and I'm glad you did that for yourself.
yeah, it was a good time. So
Okay.
eBay kind of helps pay for those things too. That's
Yeah,
a little bit of
yeah,
magic sometimes.
that's a
Part
great
of
way.
caring for Jonah, my son, is caring for me, right?
And that's
So,
a wonderful mindset, because yeah, caregiver burnout is definitely real, and you have to
yeah,
be intentional and deliberate taking care of yourself, because especially us women, like if you don't take care of yourself, nobody's going to.
true.
You got to do it. So, well, thank you so much for agreeing to come on, and I wish you all the best, but you're balancing things beautifully, and we'll look for more of your sales on the Facebook group.
Oh yeah, thanks. Thanks for doing that. That's been a real help for when I got started. I think you were what I went to first. What I found
Oh,
first and
wow. Okay.
learned from first. So
Yeah,
thanks for
everyone loves that thread. And
providing that platform.
when it starts on Monday, it's just boom, comments just start. Everybody waits, like, can't wait to post my stuff. So it's so wonderful that everyone will share their information, and we
A
can all
great
learn.
place to learn and to
Yes.
celebrate people and to learn like BOLO's like always like just also just to celebrate what other people are doing and how like wow that sold for what just being so
I know.
surprised.
Who knew, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, what are you doing the rest of today?
Well, today's Wednesday, which is my day that it's kind of my down day. I don't work as a caregiver other than when my son comes home. But like I said, I'm a caregiver for an elderly lady 1 or 2 days a week. Today's kind of my down day. I'll probably get off of this Zoom call and I probably will do a little bit of eBay, honestly. And then I'll probably go for a bike ride. It really rained here this
Good.
morning and the sun now is shining. So before I pick up my son, I'll probably go for a bike ride around White Rock Lake and then go get him.
That sounds great. Do it.
That's the plan.
Okay, well, thanks again for coming on, and we'll
Yeah,
see you on Facebook.
thanks for having me.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
And now on to parting words. Yes, OfferUp is still an active site. There have been so many community selling sites over the years, it is hard to keep up with all of them if you don't use them very often. So, OfferUp is still there. Next week, my guest is Nina, who lives in a rural part of Oregon. So her sourcing is a little different. And she reached out to me to come on the podcast, which I love. So, any of you listeners that would like to be a guest, please get in touch with me. My contact information is below, or you can reach out to me on Facebook, or my email is Suzanne at SuzanneAWells.com. Thanks for listening, everyone, and I will talk to you next week. Make it a profitable and productive week on eBay. Bye, everybody.